Hello my friends and welcome to Flying Circus Models. This is the final part of my Italian Falcon build, and this video will be a bit longer than usual because there is no point to split it. So both fuselage halves were glued together and I didn't have any problems with matching pinpoints on each side. Once the glue dried, I sanded joints with 600 grit sandpaper and did the same on the wings joints. As you can see, the plastic has nice and thin panel lines, but it doesn't have any rivets, only some panel locks. And again, if you decide to build the model straight from the box, this will be enough. However, I decided to add rivets, and likely this plane didn't have a lot of them. To do this, I used a trumpeter riveter tool, and based on the panel lines and aircraft plans that I found online, I added those rivets. Moreover, with the help of the 0.8 mm medical needle, I made some bigger rivets on the tail section. The lower wing and fuselage joint has a very small gap from the top and bottom sides, and I had to use Mr. Hobby white putty to fill them out. And once the putty dried, I also sanded it, and basically that's only one place where I had to use a putty. The next step was to glue all cowling parts together, and it was a little bit tricky because it has 5 pieces with no support one to each other. The instruction tells you to glue the cowling on top of the engine, but I will need to paint it after, and in this case I would need to mask the engine, which is not fun as well. But anyways, I managed to glue it, and as you can see, the engine fits perfectly. Before painting, the whole model was covered with Mr. Hobby 1000 gray primer, and I used Tamiya XF64 red-brown paint to do the pre-shading. The top sides will be painted with the sand color as the main color, and I thought that black pre-shading will be too dark. However, I used black paint for the bottom sides. ICM gives you a template to mask the clear parts, but I like to do it in a different way. Just to apply Tamiya masking tape, use a toothpick to highlight the lines, and use a sharp scalpel blade to cut the masking tape. Once it was masked, I painted it with the aluminum color, and with the same paint I covered the inner side of the cowling. Then all top and sides were painted with Tamiya XF59 desert yellow color, and I tried to put very thin layers so the pre-shading on wing ribs and fuselage panels remain visible. The engine and propeller cowlings were painted with Mr. Hobby yellow color, and again a lot of thin layers to see the pre-shading. And here comes the most interesting part of the whole build, painting the camo. For green I used a Mia XF61 dark green color. And the main thing is to set the air pressure and paint thickness. As you can see, I practiced a lot on the cardboard first, and if the paint is too thick you will have a powder effect. And if it's too thin and you used a lot of thinner, you will have a blotch. I highly recommend you to practice and play with the air pressure before you start to paint the camo on the model. For me, the ideal settings were around 15 psi and 70 to 30 paint and thinner mix. And very carefully we need to paint the camo dots. I tried to match them with the photos and then I just decided to paint my own shapes and sizes. With the same red-brown paint, I painted the second camo color. The air pressure was the same and the paint thickness as well. But again, you need to practice on a cardboard every time you mix the new color or when you need to add more paint. For all bottom sides, I made a black pre-shading, as I said before, and I used Tamiya XF66 light gray paint. To make a national marking white cross, you can use a decal from the kit, but I decided to paint it. To mark the right size, I used 6mm Tamiya masking tape, and I made a cross using it first, then masked the tail and removed the 6mm tape. In this way I got a perfect 6mm cross. It was painted with Mr. Hobby white paint. In the same way, I masked the tail red line that was a squadron marking or was used for the quick plane recognition. Once all main paint job was completed and masks were removed, I covered the model with the layer of Future, or you can use any gloss clear coat. The next step was to apply decals, and this plane didn't have a lot of them. Surprisingly, the decals are great, and with the help of set sol solutions, they took the shape of the model perfectly. No silvering, and they also took the shape of all rivets I had made. Then all decals were covered with one more layer of feature to protect them. I used a brown panel line accent color to highlight panel lines and rivets on the top surfaces and black on the bottom. The excess wash was removed with the help of mineral spirit and the cotton stick. Even though this plane didn't have a rotary engine that spilled oils everywhere while it was rotating, I used oil paint raw sienna and burnt umber to add a little bit of oil leaks. I put only small dots of paint and with the help of a brush just made the strips. Oh, and by the way, if you like my videos, please subscribe to the channel and support me on Patreon. You can use a special QR code to do it, and I will leave the link into this description. Thank you. Also, with the help of silver pencil, I highlighted each panel line and their locks. Machine gun barrels are not so great, and instead of replacing them with the aftermarket ones, I thought to use brass tubes. But I didn't have the right size, thus I decided just to clean them and drill the holes. Anyway, they will be painted and the difference will not be huge. Next, I glued the engine to the cowling and both of them to the fuselage. Also, I glued the landing gear. It wasn't too hard to insert the wheel, but I saw some people drill it to fit it to the pins, but I didn't have any problems. For the cross bracing, I drilled 0.4 millimeter holes in each outer strut, and I'm going to use a nickel wire for that and not my regular easy line because it's way too small. With the help of Tamiya X19 smoke color, I painted the exhaust and the machine gun afterburn. And my regular rigging technique that I use to make the aileron lines. The technique is very simple. Just put the easy line through the 0.6 millimeter brass tube piece and then put this back. Now we can remove masks from the clear parts and clean it with the soft brush from any dust. It was very easy to install the top wing. The main idea is not to mix all struts. They look similar and you need to know which goes where. The whole structure looks solid after using a super glue. The cross bracing was made using a 0.4mm nickel wire, as I mentioned before, and you will need to measure 7 times and cut once in order to have the correct length of it. Very carefully insert wire into one side, bend it a little bit to insert to another and fix with the super glue. Navigation lights were painted with red and green colors. Also, I used a very little amount of dry pigments to add dust on the wheels and the landing gear. Once it was done, I realized that it's not really visible with the dark yellow color of the plane, but at least wheels are a little bit dirty. And the final step is to insert the propeller, and the model is completed. I really like the kit, and it's highly recommended if you want to build one of the World War II biplanes. And as usual, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, press like button and leave your comments below. I read and reply to all of them. Also, if you would like to support my channel, you can do it on Patreon, where you can see my videos early. Also, I share some interesting information there. The link is in the description. Thanks for watching and see you in the next builds.